suitable home is one of the most important influences on our health and well-being. Here, in the London Borough of Hackney, rehousing programmes are in place to help older adults move to a suitable home, either because they've chosen to move or because older properties are being demolished as part of regeneration. This video takes a closer look at these programmes, reporting research on rehousing for older social tenants, that is, people who are renting from Hackney Council or from a housing association.
Hackney is a very densely populated borough, classical inner London borough. Interestingly, unlike other London boroughs, we've got a lot of older people, a majority of our older people actually live in social rented accommodation. Therefore, we've got a large population to reach out to that have needs that we're looking to rehouse.
Hackney Council supports 4 different rehousing programmes for older social renters. The downsizing programme helps tenants move to a smaller property in Hackney, while the regeneration programmes relocate tenants in Hackney as their old homes are demolished and housing blocks and neighbourhoods are redeveloped. Older social renters can also get support to move out of Hackney. The Housing Moves programme allows relocation to another London borough. And lastly, the Seaside and Country Homes programme facilitates moves to the coast or countryside. Moving home can be a stressful and difficult experience. Professional support is available for older social tenants across all 4 rehousing programmes.
The team that had been on here, they knew they were based on the estate. People could drop in at any time and talk to them, so there was that. Now we provide that element of service.
We at Hackney Council, we wanted to know 2 things. Firstly, how well the rehousing programmes that we've got are actually working, number 1. Also, how we can improve the experiences of older people in that rehousing programme. We wanted to look at people's stories and get some more information in there, which is why we asked the School of Public Health Research to help us answer those questions.
The School for Public Health Research is a collaboration of 8 centres in England with research excellence in public health. Its members include the universities of Cambridge and Sheffield. The study requested by Hackney Council was led by Dr. Stefanie Buckner from Cambridge. Steph, we've heard why Hackney Council approached the School for Public Health Research. Can you tell us a bit more about the study that your team developed in response?
Sure. So together with Hackney Council, we designed a study of older social housing tenants' experiences of moving through one of the 4 rehousing programmes.
Okay, and how did you collect information for the study?
We used a variety of methods. So we started by interviewing professionals such as housing officers and people who work with older adults.
Yeah, some of our members have been living in Wimberdown for over 30, 40 years and have moved from the old blocks to the new blocks.
Next, we asked tenants who had moved to complete a questionnaire, and we then asked some of those tenants to take part in a photography project. This is what we call photo voice.
And what did that involve?
That involved people taking pictures that captured aspects of their move and then discussed them in interviews and focus groups. And last but not least, we also interviewed someone who had originally wanted to downsize but then decided against moving.
It could rehouse a family of 4 in this property, and there's only one of me.
You've now completed the study, analysed the data and so on. What were the main findings?
We identified different reasons why people moved. Importantly, while some chose to move, others didn't actually have a choice.
Older social housing renters move for a range of reasons. It can be because they want to be near and closer to family. It can be a change of view, a change of scenery, the seaside. It can also be because the property that an older person is living in is hard for them to manage, it's too small, it needs to be on the ground floor. Also in Hackney, because we've got large regeneration programmes, it could be because we're actually physically knocking a person's house down and they've got to move. So again, a lot of different reasons why people actually move. And because it's a large older people's population, all of those come into play.
We also found that tenants who had moved out of London often did so because they disliked living in the city. Why is it that you wanted to get out of London and move here?
It's grossly overcrowded. As an older person in London, I don't feel comfortable or that we're being catered for properly. The medical services, I know they're overwhelmed, but you tend to feel like you're left behind.
you've got the noise, the pollution, which we don't have here.
You mentioned that you talked to someone who was keen to downsize, but then decided not to move after all.
Yes, and this case illustrates that there can be major obstacles that discourage tenants from moving.
And I'm getting older, so I find it, as the years go on, more and more difficult of doing my housework. That's the reality of it, you know. And also a room that is there doing nothing. The properties were not suitable for me. Going into the property, narrow staircase leading to the flat, where it was so narrow, I just stood there and I looked at it and I thought, how am I going to carry my shopping? But at the end of the day, that's all they had, and they couldn't offer me something they didn't have.
It's of course critical that a suitable property is available, but at the same time, other more personal factors can also play a role.
I raised my daughter here special times, although I was full-time working mum. But, you know, there's family life and then you look out of these windows and you've got that beautiful reservoir because it's always been there.
What did you find out about the tenants' experiences of the process of moving?
Their experiences were mixed across the rehousing programmes. For some, the process went really smoothly and they felt well supported, but for others, it presented challenges. So what was your experience of moving actually like? What kind of support did you get?
None. And they never informed us of any help whatsoever that was available or how we could go about obtaining some.
What were the outcomes for tenants moving through these various programmes?
The outcomes varied, but some patterns emerged. So, for example, tenants who had moved out of Hackney or out of London altogether highlighted mainly positive outcomes, such as living in an environment that they preferred. So this is the other picture, Dave. Can you just tell me a bit more about that, please, why you did that?
This is another small resort, which is a few miles from here. It's called Budley Salterton. Behind me, going down the opposite side of the car park, there's an inlet from the sea which goes into a wetlands, which is the start of the River Otter, and it's also a bird sanctuary, and it's clean. Hardly, you know, you'll see the odd tiny bit of graffiti in places, but it virtually doesn't exist here.
Tenants in the downsizing programme presented a mixed picture of outcomes. Some experienced disappointments, for example, where the properties they had moved into needed repairs. Others were delighted with aspects of their new homes, as in the case of a tenant whose photos show that her new flat can accommodate her pottery equipment.
And what about tenants moving through the regeneration programme in Woodbury Down?
There were some who emphasised that regeneration had brought benefits, such as warm modern homes.
I was lucky because I was on the 4th floor, so I didn't really have a great deal of dampness there, but in my block on the ground floor there was a lot of dampness on there. You could feel the squelching on the carpet of the dampness, and there was mould all over the walls there.
Their flats are warm, they're comfortable, they are pretty much all on one level. By and large the lifts work, there's good security into the blocks. So all of those things were a vast improvement.
On the other hand, some tenants felt that with the new buildings in Woodbury Down, some valued features of the old estates had been lost.
The council made it as part of their promises, they'll look to move people in with their neighbours, and where they can, they will do that. But the fundamental difference is the existing old blocks are deck access. So you walk up the stairs, you walk along the external corridor past other people's flats to get to your flat. So you're walking past people's kitchens primarily, so you keep an eye on your neighbours to a certain extent, or you see them, or you notice if they're going in and out of their flats. They're moving mainly to brand new homes where you get in a lift, you've got an internal corridor, and there's doors on both sides, but unless someone's coming out, you won't see your neighbours.
So being rehoused as part of the Woodbury Down regeneration programme wasn't just about the tenants themselves and their own homes.
No, it certainly wasn't, because for some, this regeneration programme actually provided important opportunities to improve the local environment and to secure benefits for the community. Tenants showed this through the photos.
I took this picture of the wetlands because it's one of the better parts of the regeneration. I think that it's very quiet over there, and you wouldn't think you was in the middle of London.
No.
So.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of people didn't think that we would be able to get it opened up to the public, but it's fantastic that we were able to do that, and it is used by people far and wide, really, struck Newton and everything.
Yeah, that's good.
This is a picture of the football pitch, which I took, and it's really, I mean, anytime I pass this football pitch, there's always children in there playing, and now that we have the Arsenal involved,
Good that we could get the training sessions like we did, really.
Yeah, it's
and
really good.
Got more training sessions now, so we got the girls do the training as well. So
yeah, and the girls are really settling in there,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Over successive phases of regeneration, learning and improvements have occurred. Community representation continues to ensure that the needs and priorities of the local community are taken into account.
So the design committee has 6 Woodco reps on it, and the terms of reference are built into the Principal Development Agreement, which is the main legal agreement that the partners have. So it's enshrined in the regeneration, and they've used that to improve the design of the social rented homes, phase by phase.
What plans do you and the council have for using the study findings?
We will share the findings widely. The idea is that they will benefit housing policy and practice both in Hackney and beyond. Also, we want them to reach all the social housing tenants.
But you know that's working it out to the communities.
yeah.
And how do you plan to share what you found?
So, as well as publishing our findings, we will host a national workshop for housing professionals and decision makers. Also, there will be a public exhibition of the photo voice pictures in a community centre in Hackney.
I just recognise that place is obviously. We're all aware that when it comes to housing, Hackney is actually facing a crisis, no doubt about that. We have over 9,000 people on our housing register. We have over 3,000 that we have a duty to house into permanent homes as we speak. And at the same time, we still have people that are still coming on.
And we're actually starting on our own housing strategy. And this research, I'm hoping, will feed into that. But we've made sure that older people have got in at the very beginning, not at the consultation stage, not once it's gone sent out, but that the committee, the Hackney Older Citizens Committee, have talked to officers about what the questions should be, what the scope should be, what it should be looking at.
There are financial incentives for local authorities to downsize and regenerate and so on. But we need to be sure, despite the financial incentives, that we are doing the right thing for residents and the right thing for tenants. And that's what makes research like this so important, because it enables us to examine and understand how our tenants actually feel about downsizing, how they actually feel about regeneration.
Because a lot of the tenants, they've got quite large multiple households, so they might have several generations living in the same property.
But in the end, housing is about people, and in as much as this piece of research allows us to listen to and understand people's thoughts and needs, it's a very important piece of research.